All right, folks, the mayor's going to be in just a moment, but we're running behind already. We were supposed to have a public hearing at 5:50 regarding ordinances 2022-2-1, 2022-2-2, and 2022-2-3. Is there anyone here that wishes to be heard on the public hearing for any of these three ordinances? If so, now is the time. Approach the podium and press the button and speak. And in case you were wondering, those are, the first one, the 2-1, is an ordinance to update the surcharge thresholds and maximum pollutant concentrations which may be discharged into the Livingston sanitary sewer system. The second one is the 2-2, and it is an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the town of Livingston as adopted by ordinance number, and that's blank at the moment, and as since amended to change the zoning classifications of the Ray property located on West First Street from R2 high-density residential to C1 local commercial. And the third is the 2-3, which is an ordinance amending Title 5, Chapter 4, Hotel/Motel Tax of the Livingston Municipal Code. Anyone here on any of those three? And as they do on the 6 o'clock news, I'm going to toss it back to Curtis Hayes now.
Okay, as Vice Mayor Dotson said, is there anyone here wishing to speak on these ordinance 2022-2-1, 22-2-2, and 22-2-3? -1 would be the maximum pollutant concentrations which may be discharged in the Livingston sanitary sewer plant. 22-2-2 is ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the town adopted by this ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission. 22-2-3 is just an amendment for the hotel-motel tax for the codes. If no one is here then to discuss this, then we will close the public hearing and we will call the meeting to order, and if everyone would stand for prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the many blessings, Lord. We thank you for giving us another opportunity to come together as a council and to lead our community in the right direction, Lord, and we pray that we do everything that's in accordance to thy will. We pray for our country, and especially the men and women that are serving over on foreign soil, that you'll put thy hand around them, bring them back home safe and sound, if it be thy will. We continue to pray for medical field as as we work through trying to end this pandemic. We pray for the families that have lost loved ones. We continue to, and especially the ones that we know, restore them back to their much wanted health, if it be thy will. We pray for the families that have lost loved ones. Comfort them as only you know how. Forgive us of our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Chief Etheridge, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. All right. Roll call, Ms. Phyllis, please.
Alderman Clough.
Present.
Alderman Coleman.
Present.
Alderman Dale.
Present.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Present.
Alderman Langford.
Present.
Alderman Speck.
Present.
All present.
All present, need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
So move.
Motion made by Alderman Rexdale,
Second.
second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. No additions or deletions to the agenda. Need a motion to accept the agenda as is, then? Motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson. Second by Alderman Rexdale. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Item number 1 under old business, second reading on ordinance 2022-2-1. It's an ordinance that it was mandated, realistically, an ordinance to update the surcharge thresholds and maximums pollutants concentrations which may be discharged into the Livingston sanitary sewer system. I talked with Department Head, Mr. Danny Langford, today. He has had no calls. We have not received any calls at all about this ordinance, and we did put it in the paper, and of course we did have a public hearing. No one was here to speak on this behalf. So,
Motion approved.
motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Chris Speck. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Item number 2 under old business, second reading on ordinance 2022-2-2. It's an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the town of Livingston as adopted by ordinance number 2022-2-2, and as since amended to the change the zoning classification of the Ray property located on West First Street from R2 high-density residential to C1 local commercial as recommended by the Livingston Planning Commission. Again, we've had no complaints. We did run this in the paper. No complaints. No one showed up for the public hearing. We can approve it.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson, second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion? All in favor, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Item number 3 under old business, second reading on ordinance 2022-2-3. It's an ordinance amending Title 5, Chapter 4, Hotel Motel Tax of Livingston Municipal Code. It adds an application fee, an annual fee, and a application startup fee. It was approved first reading, and we had a public hearing and have not had any complaints from any of the folks that this would fall under, so this would be the second reading to make it official. Is there a motion? Motion made by Alderman Rexdale. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Kelly Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Item number 1 under new business is downtown revitalization. Mr. Evans didn't have anything, but I believe Ms. Cantrell, do you?
I did.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me come and talk about this tonight. So all of you know that through the TVA Community Innovation Academy that the mayors and I participated in. Out of that came an initiative to increase local spending called Local First. And after some research, the Chamber has found a gift card program that we are going to implement with our businesses here in Livingston. I'm going to give you this paperwork just so you can see what the businesses are seeing as well. It'll give you all the information about it for the most part, and any questions that there might be is on here as well.
Can you hand that out, please? That way, Shane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a completely virtual gift card. They can be purchased at any of our participating businesses. They all are going to have one of these at their location. They can be purchased using the QR code, or they can go to our website, which is discoverlivingston.com. Thank you. There is a link to purchase them as well. And these gift cards are only good at participating Livingston and Overton County businesses. So far, we have about 20 businesses signed up to take these gift cards. So next time y'all are looking to give a gift to someone, buy one of these gift cards, and they can choose where they want to use them locally, rather than going to Cookeville maybe and going, getting them a Cookeville business gift card. Let's get them something local so they spend it here instead. I don't know if y'all have seen our sales tax year over year from 2020 to 2021 yet or not, but we got that report not long ago. And 2020 was a record year for us. Keep in mind, I'm going straight from memory here. I wish I had the exact numbers in front of me. But in 2021, we surpassed our sales tax revenue by about $1 million year over year. So that's great where this Local First campaign is concerned, and people are definitely spending more money local. Tourists are coming and spending money in our community, and this is just another way to bring a little bit more in, and wanted y'all to know what was going on.
Thank you, Ms. Cantrell. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Cantrell?
I got one. Shannon,
Yeah.
can we get a list of what businesses are going to be in this?
Yes, and I had actually meant to bring that with me and ran off and left it at the office, but most every business on the square currently has signed up to accept these cards, and then there are, quite about 5 or 6 others as well. But if you go to the link, if you go to discoverlivingston10.com and click the link, it's going to show you all the businesses that are participating. And I've got a list of maybe 5 that are going to do it. They've just not activated yet, so.
So that list can expand if there are other businesses that want to join in with that, they're welcome to.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
It's,
And how do you get the card? You just go online and do it?
you will purchase it, you'll purchase it through the link. You can either scan the QR code or go straight to our website. That will be delivered directly to your email or cell phone, or you can send it directly to the person that you're wanting to purchase it for. You can print it out and give it as a gift that way, or once it comes to your cell phone or email, you do a screenshot, and then that's your card, and that's what you will show when you go to the businesses. Thank you. They are. They are.
Thank you.
They are all listed.
And how do you plan to promote this to community-wide?
We will do a press release for the paper,
Okay.
and then, of course, I'll promote it as much as I can on social media as well.
Any other questions for Ms. Cantrell? Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much. Do you have any other business?
No, that was all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, we have with us Mr. Anthony Haynes. Looks like Kevin Krasinski. It says Chad Jenkins, but that don't look like Chad Jenkins. It looks like Kevin to me, from Tennessee Municipal League, and they're here to, I know there's been some questions about ARPA, which is American Rescue Plan Act, some money that all Tennessee cities was able to receive or allocation and one of the allocations was 1.2 million, and in another eligible allocation, it's 968,000. But I'm not going to say any, I don't want to steal any thunder from Mr. Haynes. I'll turn it over to Mr. Anthony Haynes, which is with us via Zoom, and also Mr. Kevin Krasinski. Take it away.
All right, Mayor Hayes, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Just thumbs up? Great, okay. Well, as Mayor Hayes and I have talked about this, you look back on it, this $2 trillion economic boost to local communities around the country went on, I guess probably Biden signed it into law almost 1 year ago this week, on March 11th. And it's, as Mayor Hayes and I have talked about over the year, of different pieces of information and guidance coming out and how the money would be spent or how they want you to account for it. It's kind of like the weather in Tennessee. If you don't like what the Department of Treasury has told you today, just hang in there. They'll probably change it on you in 2 or 3 months.
Thank you, Kevin. I do have a couple of questions. It appears it is still, it's still fluid, it's still moving, which concerns me a little bit because we have got a deadline. Has that deadline to have your projects in and be completed and have the money spent, has that deadline moved any, or is it still the way it was? Given, I'm thinking that it would change given the fact the rules have changed. So
Are you referring to the state project deadline?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, the project, it was my understanding you had to have all the money spent by 25? 26. 26.
6, yeah.
Yeah. Has that moved any, or is that still the same?
No, that's still, the final expenditure date
Okay.
is still the same.
All
So
right.
all costs must be incurred prior to December 31, 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
But as far as the state, and I'm going to let Chad offer, he is actually here, as the bot would say, if you don't mind, he can answer one of those questions too.
Okay. And so Chad, hello, Chad. You're the real Chad, right?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good to see you. So this replace loss of public revenue, if we was looking at using that, those revenues for paving, would that be eligible?
Based on the current description and understanding, that would be a general government service and eligible for use of those funds.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any other council members have any questions for Anthony or Kevin or Chad? All right, you guys have done an outstanding job. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Haynes, thank you for lining this up. You've got a good staff, and thank you very much.
And Mayor, just before we go, we said it a couple times, but y'all were smart to wait, and so you all be commended for following that advice, because if you had not, we have a couple of cities who committed funds already wishing they had.
Yeah.
So y'all were wise to wait until now, until they got flushed out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Also, we have Ms. Tara Wogermuth with us via Zoom that is representing Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation. That is the second allocation of funds that we do not have. And I want to go back and talk about allocation number one, which was the American Rescue Plan Act. We have received half of that. That's $600,696.40. Now, according to the Comptroller's Office, 12 months after we got our first allocation of November, I think, Phyllis, you said November came in the first week of November, then we should receive our next allocation based on when we saved our first one this year in November, okay? Allocation number two, which again, we do not have, but it appears that we are eligible, and with us eligible for an amount of $968,607.06 with a 15% match, up to a 15% match that could be lower based on the priorities that TDEC has set forth that I think we would fall under, so that 15% could easily go down to 5%. It could. All right. I know this is a lot, so I apologize for talking a lot. But I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tara Wogermuth. She is our Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation representative to talk just a little bit about the eligible allocation. Ms. Tara.
All right, thanks, Mayor Hayes. Good evening, Livingston. I'm Tara Goldman, so I'm TDEC's Regional Director of External Affairs out of your Cookville Environmental Field Office. And I also have with me on the line Ms. Bina Jones with our Division of Water Resources. She's one of the architects of the TDEC's Water Infrastructure Investment Plan, which is, as TML described are how we're hoping to allocate that $1.35 billion that the governor and the fiscal accountability group has given to us. So, as Mayor Hayes said, we have developed a model that allocated those monies to cities and counties across Tennessee, and the model allocated $960,000 approximately to the city of Livingston to spend on
The way I read it, I'm sorry, Tara, the way I read it.
And Vina's on the line to give you even more details.
Okay, well, the way I read it,
But nobody in the state will get 5%, I promise you that.
I wanted to be the only one.
I know. But nobody will get less than 10%, so you could have the lowest match rate in the state potentially.
Okay, all right.
So
My
I'm not
apology.
sure. Vina's that's all right. Vina's one of the architects of the plan, and I know you were interested in some green infrastructure.
Absolutely.
It's one of those priority areas. And so, Vina, do you want to talk a little bit more about green infrastructure and or ARP, maybe what they need to know?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here. Tara's right that 10% would be the lowest co-funding option you would have, and that's a pretty sweet deal. It's a 90-20 match. I think that's a great opportunity to leverage some almost $1 million in money to further Livingston's water, wastewater, stormwater infrastructure. Number one, I would say that all systems who do apply, right, because we will not be depositing money in the bank like the comptroller or the federal government did. Livingston will actually have to go through a grant proposal process where you submit a proposal to the state and we review it to ensure that that proposal lines up with critical needs and priority areas to the maximum extent practical, and then the rest of the money you can use for whatever else you guys see fit. But the requirement for the proposal also requires Livingston to submit an infrastructure scorecard, which is a tool that we use to analyze the system's drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure to determine if there are any critical needs. Mayor, does the city operate a drinking water or wastewater facility?
Yes, we do.
So we would love to see, so any community that does submit a proposal would have to submit that scorecard. Now, we're not going to require you to address drinking water or wastewater critical needs if you want to focus on stormwater, as long as you don't have any significant non-compliance issues. And significant non-compliance would mean that you have a corrective action plan and an order issued by the state mandating that you address some any serious
with the water we
violations
are.
to drinking
Sure we
water
are.
or serious violations to wastewater.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you would know it if you had it. I promise you, if you're going, what significant non-compliance, then you're probably in the clear. The stormwater eligibilities are very, very broad, and they include a lot of green infrastructure options, all the way from rain gardens in your neighbor's yard to complete green streets. So we are excited to hear communities are interested in using this money for things ranging all the way from a holistic stormwater management plan, so they can better understand the hydrology and the response of their systems to rainfall events, to developing, green, decentralized stormwater management, right, and everything in between. So, we would be really interested in hearing your project ideas, just to talk about them fitting into the eligibilities and see how we can help you guys capture capture that language so that you can push your projects forward.
Yeah. Ms. Jones, thank you very much. You and Tara has been a great help. I'm just curious, other than this, this eligibility that I'm certain that we're going to be eligible for on so many different levels, is there other grant opportunities out there for green infrastructure? Because we are interested in hearing about that.
Absolutely. So the ARP, you will have a green component, right? That is a grant. After we launch the ARP application, I'm also intending to launch a stormwater grant, and that will be an annual grant program that is specific for stormwater projects and green infrastructure. There's not a lot of money in that this year. I think it's between $1 and $3 million.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
I love the way you just step right up. I'm here. We anticipate between 1 and 5 awards this year, depending on the project response. Beyond that, we are looking towards the bipartisan infrastructure law, which was signed by Biden on November 15th, 2021. That will infuse a tremendous amount of money into the state revolving fund loan program. And that has designated funds for traditional green projects, traditional wastewater projects, traditional drinking water projects. That's what he's talking about. Also, lead service lines and emerging contaminants. The federal government is releasing guidance on how SRFs are required to execute that program over the next 5 to 10 years. And we are told that we're going to be required to provide significant amounts of loan forgiveness or grants. So some of the monies will be 100% loan forgiveness or grants, and that will be a sliding scale all the way down to 49% loan forgiveness or grants. And it will be specific to disadvantaged communities or small systems and small and disadvantaged communities. So if Livingston's population or population served is less than 10,000 and your ATPI is 50 or less, which it is, you are considered at least disadvantaged, and based on your population served, I don't know, what is your population served, Mayor?
About 4,000. Just
Small and disadvantaged. So you will be eligible, you will be a prime candidate for eligibility for loans that you do not have to repay, or loans that you only have to repay 50 to
You ever heard of that term, Ken?
like 10% back.
Not till this year.
At the state, personally, I am encouraging leadership to offer this additional funding that will come out like in 23 as grant programs, because it is a much more efficient way for us to execute the funds. We don't have to go in front of the comptroller and talk about depreciation and rates and all of that business. We just grant you the money. So we will be establishing the process for that through 2022. But if you think that you would be interested in that kind of money, it is very critical that your staff, your drinking water operators, your wastewater operators, your stormwater coordinator submit a questionnaire for each and every project you want to do that you don't intend to pay for through ARP.
Okay, we can do that. So I do have a couple of questions, Ms. Jones. Can you apply annually, Or do you have one grant, and if you get awarded that grant, when can you apply for another one? I guess I'm looking for the larger pot of money. I hate to apply now and only get X, and if you wait 12 months, you get double X or triple X. I'm trying to.
Totally. So I don't know that there'll ever be a triple times the amount of money that's available.
Okay.
Because what I hear, right, is leveraging available funding assistance programs, meaning, Mayor, we want you to say, we've got 10 projects, we're gonna take care of these 3 over here with ARP or whatever it is, but we have one that we need some ARP money, and we need some SRF money. And we'll say, great, let's make a strategy to maximize the amount you get for free, and make sure that you have, commingle the funds so then you bring in all these additional federal requirements, right? We want to minimize the reporting requirements on you guys as much as possible. That's the same in terms of the stormwater grant, right? The stormwater grant, if you guys are like, we need that stormwater grant, I think the first year we will have limited funds, like 1 to 3 million. Next year, it really depends on Congress, how much money we get allocated, but it should be a minimum of the same amount that we have. So I can't promise that it will grow.
Right. So is that, I'm sorry, Kelly, I know you was about, is that 1 to 3 million across the state of Tennessee only? Okay. And can you apply for this grant year after year after year? So in other words, if we got a grant, does the grant have to be closed before you can reapply? Right.
Well, that's a good question. I haven't written the grant guidance yet. I'm gonna.
Well, hey, there you go. Well, I think what would be ideal is to piggyback off of one grant and another, but we know that we're not going to be able to close a grant realistically in 12 months. It just don't happen. It just really don't happen. So that's why I kept asking, that's why I asked you about, is there a larger pool of money versus the annual year that it comes out? So, the project that we've got could possibly be up to anywhere from $1 million to $3 or $4 million. We don't know. But all the help that we could certainly get, and I think it would be really, really nice when you wrote the program that you could continue to apply even if you have an open application. Just saying. Kelly?
So if I were you, Mayor, I would probably wait to map out my strategy. So it sounds like you have a stormwater project in mind, a green project.
Yes.
What is the green project?
Well, the green, so we have filed a hazardous mitigation plan with TEMA, and it appears that is going to fall by the wayside. Okay, so yeah, so that's another story. But anyway, if that falls by the wayside, then we have got some flooding that has took place due to a small lake or a pond that we have that has flooded the area and has flooded some homes and repeatedly. And so it would be ideal for us to possibly make some properties green. And like you said about making a whole street green, I don't know if we can make a whole street green, but we could probably at least get a half of a street. And so, those things are just music to my ears. And
I don't want to stop you because I really love what you're saying, but I want to counsel you with your language.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the mayor appreciates the ancillary benefits of reduced flooding that this project may bring, but I'm sure that the primary benefit Livingston wants to address is improving the natural hydrologic regime and improving water quality and increasing sustainability and resilience of the community. Now, I say those words very intentionally, because flooding is not an eligible activity.
Sure.
However, we do know that sometimes when we do these green projects, it also happens to benefit flooding issues.
Okay. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, Alderman Kelly Coleman has a question for you, Ms. Jones.
Ms. Jones, just one quick question. Can you, again, tell me what does SRF, what is that an acronym? What does that mean?
SRF is the State Revolving Fund Loan Program. The SRF program focuses on drinking water, acronym D.
No, you answered my question. You answered it, thank you.
Okay.
Now, how does that tie into the Biden infrastructure plan, those funds that you referred to in that plan that aren't going to be administered through like TDOT, that are going to be available for communities to use through this program for projects that you've just described? Can you help me understand the correlation?
Yes.
And you said those begin in 2023, correct?
So they've been through this
Right.
one time before.
That's right. That's right, Terry.
I'm just trying to clarify, we've got ARPA money of 1.2 million. We have TDEC money of $960,000+. I think we're all pretty clear on that. You're saying that through the TDEC SRF program, that we can apply for an additional grant, loan, grant, whatever, as long as we fill out that questionnaire on a specific project, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about a third possible, monies that we could use. That is, I'm understanding it correctly. Is that a confirmation?
Forgiven. It's likely.
Is that correct?
That could be. Has nothing to do with the Biden.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
$10 million project, right?
Yeah,
You don't have to stick to that measly $900,000.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I like the way you're thinking. So, yeah. So, well, we will reach out to you or Tara tomorrow to kind of get started. The clock's kind of ticking here. So, but thank you all. Does anybody have any more questions for Ms. Jones or Ms. Woogermuth?
When does that questionnaire have to be
March 17th.
submitted for this SRF money? 10 more days, is that right?
March 17th.
Yeah. No. Right. Okay, thank you very much. And hey, you have enlightened us a lot. Tara, thank you for setting this up. We do appreciate you, and we will miss you when you go to Nashville and you're not our representative anymore. But congratulations on your...
She'll be hanging out with me. You'll get to see her.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, let's go to item number 3, flood mitigation. With us, we have Mr. Chris Johnson, and we have Mr. Doug Warden from TEMA. Mr. Warden, Mr. Johnson.
Hey, Mayor, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Thanks for having us, Mayor, and appreciate your time and a chance to speak to you and the council here.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
So there's just a couple of things that we need to talk about dealing with the kind of the program and where we're at and kind of the stipulations and guidelines that we have to follow. So one is we just recently found out or confirmed that there's a lawsuit concerning this Dillon Pond flooding that the city is still.
Yes.
The
2 years.
flooding started happening. So
Yeah.
it's relatively new, but they would look at making sure that, in future events that we would be actually saving dollars. So the good news is the way our program works, and I want to make sure everybody's clear on this, is good news and bad news, however, depending on the side of the ball you're on, we get HGP dollars based off the number of disasters we have. And so bad news is we've had a lot of disasters in the state. Good news is every time we have those disasters, a portion of that is segmented off. And so, what we're going to say right now, based off of the information that we have, is we're not recommending moving forward where you're at, but we have funding that's going to continue to keep coming. And I let Doug help me out. Doug is the state mitigation officer for state, and so he certainly is the expert in this field. But we are going to have funding in this program. And quite frankly, sir, I hear you looking at all the options that you have, and I am certainly a proponent of that. I've been trying to go around the state. Doug and I have gone around the state and tried to look at every possible option that we can use to support this. We do not want to get any other back to federal government. We want to keep those locally in the state, and certainly the communities there. So right now we have a huge amount of influx over the next few years based on the fact we've had about 12 declared disasters in the last 2.5 years. So even if we aren't able to do that now, we can clear up, I don't know what the legal timeline is, and that's where I can't control. We can work on some other things. And once we hit that, I think we can move forward if these other options, I know you've got some of the things you're looking on the table. If we're not there, we can start to move forward.
So,
yes, sir.
I just have a question, Mr. Johnson. In a nutshell, given the fact that there is a lawsuit in this, that TEMA/FEMA cannot help us at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I checked with the federal government. So I wanted, yours is a little bit unique because I think the property that you're looking at is not the actual property that's involved in the lawsuit.
That's right.
So I did ask and double check, and the concern is if the court was to find a reason to stop or create, another alternative that kept that individual from flooding, if it would no longer meet the purpose of buying out the property we're looking at buying out. In other words, if you had to build a retention pond and drain in a different way, then you no longer are effectively, you wouldn't want to buy those houses in because they would be, that property would no longer flood. So until that's resolved, the federal government under CFR would not allow us to move forward.
Okay. All right. So none of the programs at this time, unless, for some reason, things are, went to court, it's settled and blah, 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 then we could possibly go back and take another look. Is that what you're saying?
Unfortunately, and you know, I don't like necessarily the rule of third all the time, but they're the ones that hold the purse strings. So
Yeah.
we would be held to that. So
Right.
as of now, we would not be able to go forward on that as long as there's a pending lawsuit.
Yeah, so, yeah, so I guess the question is, you know, we've been at this 2 years, and I'm not, I don't want to have a long debate over this, but we've been doing this for approximately 2 years. We've also been in the lawsuit probably a year, maybe a year and a half. And at the time, everyone at the table had the understanding that there was litigation under this. So I'm just kind of wondering why that wasn't stopped back during when folks found out. I mean, we disclosed it. It wasn't that it was a secret.
Sir, now I certainly understand. All I can tell you is, once I was privy to the lawsuit, that's one time I found out, and we looked at it and see what the options were.
Okay.
You know, I can't speak for what I wasn't witness to or unaware of.
Yeah, and Mr. Johnson, what was your title? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm the Assistant Director for Recovery and Mitigation for Tennessee Emergency Management.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, so right now, it just appears that, yeah, okay.
I think for the record, this is Alderman Coleman. I'm the one that's been pretty vocal about this in terms of expressing some disappointments and discouragements. I think for the record, it would be most helpful in the future if y'all could provide guidance from day one in terms of what specific information you need from homeowners as it relates to whatever repairs, remediation that they've performed on particular property. Like the mayor said, we've been at this for over 2 years, actually, and we just learned last month that the reason that we didn't qualify is because our homeowners didn't supply receipts. Okay, that's what we were told. And so at the last meeting, we asked, could y'all simply send us a form describing specifically what it is that our homeowners needed to supply you? So these people have been going through this for 2 years. Now you're telling us we can't approve it because it's a lawsuit and it's a federal government thing. I mean, this is just typical right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing, typical cover-up, in my opinion. And, you know, you haven't provided us any guidance to tell our homeowners what specifically they need. Alderman Coleman, Coleman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, this is always frustrating for everyone, this whole process, and always is. We do these kind of projects all the time, and it is a long process. I guess the name I would throw out, though, again, Dr. Holden's been working with you guys quite a bit, too, specifically on this, but Marcy Ackerman, you guys got her assistance. I don't know, I think she's with the upper Cumberland district, but Donna's been working with her for months, with you guys, and she represented your city. So
And they all knew about this
she's been
litigation.
working on this benefit cost. She's, was, so I guess obviously there was some disconnect there a little bit. The main problem was the, properties are not in a flood zone. And because they're not in a special flood hazard area, they have to do a regular benefit cost analysis, which is not unusual. Most of our projects do that anyway. But to do a BCA, you have to have damage frequency assessment. It's damage history, cost. And that's just part of it. And Marcy's been working with that. She's tried running it. I think Donna's tried running it too to assist. So we'll work with you in the future, but that's going to be an ongoing problem. Whether we do it next month or a year from now, you got to have some kind of damage cost or history, not just photos. You got to have numbers, and that's what FEMA expects. We can send you. We have Marcy knows how to do it, but there's we can show you the little formula you use to get that information. But we can send that to you again. Sure.
This is,
And we'll send some examples to you. We'll send things to have. It's too late.
Unfortunately, it's too late to do all that now because you've just told us that because of the lawsuit, we don't qualify. So, thanks for the information at this point, but it's too late.
and this is Vice Mayor Dodson. I'd just like to say, with all due respect, Ms. Ackerman, Mr. Warden, Ms. Holden, all of those folks knew that these properties were not in that flood area. They also knew about this litigation, and those are the two things that we're now being told is why we can't proceed, which if we can't, we get that. But I just want to say that those were known items from the get-go, and it's sad that they're coming to light now as being roadblocks and stop signs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very, very much. In the event that something is settled, we will reach back out to you, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Warden, and thank you all so much for being part of this tonight. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, I wanted to go back real quick to number 2, and I handed you out a potential plan, as you heard Tim L. talk about with the ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. There is a spending plan that we will have to provide and send into the comptroller's office. For the eligible money, there is a scorecard, and the scorecard with TDEC and that we will have to submit. Before we submit them, it is my intentions to bring that both of those to the board for approval before we submit. Now, just taking a look at it here for the allocation, now that since new guidelines has came forth, is changed some things just a little bit. As of right now, and I'll be talking with TDEC just a little bit more to see if this will change, and it possibly could. But I would certainly be recommending allocation 1 to do $1.2 million worth of paving for city streets. Also, in the event that our scorecard is good with TDEC, for $968,000 would be doing the automatic meter read system along with the zone meter project, and both of those would be addressing leaks to our system that we are currently under the review board with the state of Tennessee. I think that will go a long way. That would fit one of the priorities that TDEC was talking about, a high priority to where our 15% would come down to, I thought 5, I thought I read 5, but she checked me on that and it said it was 10%. So, but that right now is what we're looking at doing. Now again, please keep in mind, this is fluid. The rules, the new rules, we set through, and I say we, Phyllis, Rebecca, and myself had about 10 or 12 sessions on this, and basically it's all changed. Okay, so, but as this thing continues to go, and I think you heard Tim L. say, you might want to wait even till April the 23rd, Phil, is that what he said? Until it's official. But anyway, I'll be prepared to bring something back to you for your approval in April. But this, as of right now, is what I'm looking at doing. So, $1.2 million, okay? All right, moving on to item number 4, it's property maintenance, Mr. Christian Mansell.
Mayor, Board of Aldermen, this is our updated report up to March on our miscellaneous, Chapter 1. Up to date, we have had 169 properties that have been in violation. 160 of those properties are now in compliance. It actually says 1 is in violation now, but since this came out, we have added 1 more that we've sent letters to Friday. So there'll be 2 in violation. 1 property is still state-owned in litigation with their heirs. 2 have had liens placed on the property, and 5 of these properties were cleaned up by the city. On our Chapter 2, abandoned and wrecked vehicles, we've had 26 vehicles that have been placed in violation, and they've all been taken care of this time. On Chapter 4, on our slum clearance, 14 structures have been considered slum. 3 of those properties are still closed up. 4 of the properties have been torn down, and 7 of the properties have been restored. On our Chapter 5 junkyard, we've had no properties cited at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mansell. Any questions for Mr. Mansell?
One quick question, Christian. What is the status of the old co-op building now? I know it changed ownership, and what's the current status?
So he is working on it as we speak. Mr. Ray bought the building. He's been cleaning it out steadily. He works on it usually every weekend. I talked to him last weekend, and he's planning on, he's going to fix the building. He's going to put a new roof on it. And
Do you know what his intent is for the building?
I don't think he knows it right now for 100%. He's throwing around some ideas, but he is definitely going to fix it. So.
Okay. One other quick question. The property located next to the Miss Clean laundromat on Church Street. I've noticed some activity going on there. What's the intent for that property to be used for? Do you know?
So there's going to be office space in the front. There's going to be a couple offices in the front, and the rear is going to be, there's going to be 4 units of climate-controlled storage in the rear of the building. You're welcome.
Any other questions for Christian? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mansell. Item number 5 is 2022-3-1, the dangerous dog ordinance. Mr. John Meadows, after having some calls about dogs in our neighborhood, as you well know, we don't have a pound, but there has been some talk about there being possibly some dangerous dogs. And I know that we looked at an ordinance at one time, and I wanted John to bring it back to the board to see if there's any action needs to be took. John?
That's correct, and dogs are currently covered in Chapter 2 of our municipal codes. The ordinance that's in your packet is actually an ordinance that was submitted to the council, I believe, back in 2017. That ordinance only addresses whether or not dogs should be allowed in city parks and on city property, and prohibited that with the exception of service dogs. That ordinance back in 2017 didn't pass. Now, this first came to my attention by Captain Smith had brought up that there were some concerns about some dangerous dogs in the town. And that ordinance really doesn't address that. However, I would point out that in Chapter 2 of our municipal code, Section 10-203, we already have a code that currently in effect that makes it unlawful for any person to own or keep a dog, whether vaccinated or not, which is known to be vicious or dangerous, or any female dog in heat, unless the dog is so confined and or otherwise securely restrained as to reasonably provide for the protection of other animals and persons. So we have that law in effect now that could be enforced, and the code goes a little bit further to describe that if one of those dogs is found to be running at large, that the city would have the authority to dispose of that animal as well. Now, in addition to that, the city code, there's also a state law that addresses animals and dogs running at large, and that's TCA 44-8-408. And that statute sets in place classifies the offenses where letting your dog run at large on someone else's property without their consent, or upon any public street. That would include a city street. That would be a Class C misdemeanor, punishable by fine only. If there's property damage, it makes it a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by fine only. If there's personal injury, it could be go all the way up to a Class A misdemeanor. Then if there's serious bodily injury, it could be a Class C felony. So I can't recommend or suggest that the city needs to adopt anything in addition to what we already have. I think the laws that we have are sufficient to address dangerous or vicious animals, either through the state statute that could be enforced as well as Section 10-203 of Livingston's Municipal Code. Now, the ordinance, I don't know if the city wants to revisit that or not, but the ordinance that's in your packet is the one that did not get passed 4 or 5 years ago that only addressed whether or not dogs should be allowed at the city parks or on city property.
Thank you. John, Chief Etheridge, are we having problems enforcing this, what we have on the books? What's going on here with these dog calls?
Well, typically, we'll get a call. There may just be a dog running through the neighborhood. Sometimes we can find the dog, sometimes we don't find the dog. Sometimes the dogs get loose, and we may be able to figure out where they belong. We have had occasion where, in the past, we've had a dog attack an officer. An officer had to put the dog down right then because it was right in front of us. But typically, a person that we encounter, first time we find out about it, we'll talk to them, hey, please put your dog up. Second time, we might say, please put your dog up, or start writing warning tickets, and then the next option is to cite them to municipal court. Most of the time, they're resolved. You know, I think I sent you something out that talked about how many dog calls we get. It ranged anywhere from 9 to 15 a month, probably depending. And I guess I should have clarified that wasn't all aggressive animals. Sometimes that's just welfare checks. Somebody wanting to know, hey, it's cold out and I don't think the dog's got food and water. But in terms of, aggressive dogs, that percentage is very low. But I think the one thing for clarification that I would need for the officers, I don't have anywhere to take the aggressive, vicious dog. I mean, yes, it's possible maybe I could get them in the back of a police car or one of the SUVs, but then I still run into the problem of what to do. It is a complex issue when we deal with it.
I think locating the owner is about the best we can do right now, Chief.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions for the Chief? No questions. Thank you, Chief. Yes, if you'll push that button. Next on the agenda is our attorney, Mr. Meadows, on a little report there.
Yes, I was requested to get an update on the status of the comptroller's investigation. This is related to the funds that were unaccounted for at the Livingston Police Department. And I did reach out to and was able to speak to one of the representatives from General Dunaway's office a few weeks ago, and they advised that the investigation is still going on. There had been some recent records that had been obtained through subpoena or otherwise, but they feel like the investigation is getting near to being complete. There were some additional records that they had received that they were going through, and they didn't tell me exactly when they expected a final report. That'll be up to the comptroller's office when they complete that report, but they did think that it was in the final stages of the investigation. As soon as I hear more, I'll report back to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Any questions or anything for John? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Item number 7 is just for informational purposes. We was talking about the crosswalks over in front of the hospital on Oak Street, and someone had requested us to look up what the total cost for the which was called the Safe Routes to School grant that crosswalks was put down on Zachary Street, and that cost the contracting and the engineers totaled to be $134,285. So that was just for informational purposes.
Okay, so that is for that one crosswalk, right?
Yeah.
On Zachary, yeah, the one. And then Neil Schaefer was the engineer, and I think you had said that Barge had, at the last meeting, proposed about a $20-something thousand engineering fee, right?
Oh, no, it's more than that.
Wasn't it? 20-something thousand for their engineering fee?
22.
22
Okay.
last time? Yeah. So those are expensive crosswalks.
Yeah, that's right.
But this was done with a grant?
Yes, it was.
Previously?
That's right.
Okay. Can we possibly apply for grants to do additional ones, or do you know?
Well,
Are there specific grants for just this?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. So the Safe Routes to School grant was for folks to have a safe route to school. So for the hospital, no, I've never seen a grant.
Yeah, for safe routes to hospitals.
For safe routes to hospitals, I've never seen that. We'll keep looking, but.
Go ahead and build these crosswalks, for $22,000, is that?
That-
Alone, it's more than 22,000.
Well, 20, I'm sorry. The engineer was 27,000, just for the engineer, and Adams Contractor was the low bidder, and their cost was 106, so you add them together, it's the 134, so that was the total for that one.
On the other.
No, yeah, that was just for the design of it.
Well, my question is,
Well, we don't know that, David. That is,
so the 20,
Unless we get a grant.
Mayor Hayes, I have a question. I apologize for not bringing this up during item 2, but I was checking my notes
okay.
before I put my thoughts together. This TDEC SRF projects, which we were informed about tonight, where you have to submit something in 10 days for it to be on their project list.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on that, and what are you going to put on it?
We're going to apply
For what project,
immediately.
though?
Well, for the project that we currently been turned down from TEMA.
The Dillon Pond.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, this other water leakage problem that we've been talking about for several times, that was said to cost 1.2 million, but you said it could possibly be a lot more than that. Is that
It could
right?
be. It could be, yes.
Could we not add that into this other? I mean, I never heard anything that said that applying for a project from one grant would exclude you from applying to another grant for that same project.
Yeah,
I mean, we could get up to 10 million.
yeah, so we could, and we will look into that. I think that there's priorities with this TDEC money. And there's 11 priorities, and I think you've got it in your packet. One of ours is going to fall into that priority, which is going to take our percentage down from 15% down to 10. I was corrected. I thought it was down to 5. So that is one of the reasons, well, not the only reason, but that was one of the reasons that I chose to go with that route. But I mean, any money that's out there.
I understand that,
yeah.
and I think that's great. On the other hand, this SRF money would very likely not have to be repaid at all.
That's right. And none of this money would either.
Right, I understand.
None of this money here would, zero.
But if we're getting 1.2 million, and this project ends up costing 2.5 million, by the time it's all said and done, which things generally end up costing more than the original estimate. Look into whether or not that same project could have 2 applications for
I will.
repayment.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And so the questionnaire that she was telling us about that has to be filled out within 10 days, just send us a copy of that when you submit it. Are you going to get maybe some folks at UCDD to help with that, or?
Well,
I mean, I'm talking about she was advising us on the proper language to use. I think
Well,
it's
I'm-
important that we get that.
Yeah.
I'm going to work directly with her.
Perfect.
Directly.
Perfect.
Is who I'll be working with. I will use the language that she said to use.
Great.
And yes, before it is submitted, I will send everyone a copy, but, I mean, time is of essence here.
Okay.
So I cannot bring it back to the council in April.
No.
Okay, all right, no,
That SRF, you can do multiple projects, right? So you can turn in like 10 different projects.
Yeah.
And they just prioritize as you go.
Yeah.
Right? So no point.
yeah. I think it's important, I think it is important for everyone to understand the correct allocations of money, okay? So what Ms. Jones talked about tonight, I was unfamiliar with, so this was brand new. The things, the 906 something, 900 and plus thousand was what TDEC has put priorities on that we fall in. So, yeah, if there's money out there that will be forgiven, then why wouldn't you apply? No question about that, absolutely. All right, any other business?
Where does this get us on our paving project? That means
This would complete
it.
the paving project if we use the ARPA money.
Back to that. So we have the 600 in the bank now.
That's right.
And the additional 600 should come in November this year.
We're hoping.
So what if you put the additional paving project out for bid midsummer with a completion date of sometime this fall, and then you could do it all at once, and you'd have your full 1.2 million then. You see what I'm saying? And wait till early fall to get the paving project out.
In anticipation of that second half?
Or is that not smart?
I'm not saying it's not smart. I'm just saying you're rolling the dice. And you're rolling the dice whether the state of Tennessee is going to put the money in the bank in November. I'm saying that they probably will.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling us.
Okay.
But these rules have changed so much, I'd almost be scared to do it. And so I looked in possibly getting a loan and letting this grant stand for collateral, and they said you absolutely can't do it. So if we waited and we did get our money in November, depending on the weather, but there is still a possibility, there is some paving going on in November, according to Rogers Group. Now, that's longer than what we wanted to wait, but you would have your money then. So that's...
At least we're being good stewards with it, then not spending it before we get it.
That's right, and that's what they talked about. Right. Okay, let's try this one more time. Yeah, absolutely. Any other business? No. Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman.
Second.
Second by Alderman Dale. All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.